Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Edinburgh. It's putting on a good show for you today. Today I'm going to talk to you about our living lab in Gateshead. So this is going to be observation for a mine water heat network, monitoring network. And I put my acknowledgements at the start of my slides, so I'd just like to acknowledge members of my team that have been involved in this presentation and the data collection. So that's Angela, Charlotte, who's no longer with us. Oh, she's still alive. She's moved on to other things. And Dan, and then Kate and Lee. And also I'm using some data here, which is supplied by Gateshead Energy Company. So the Gateshead Living Lab, well, what is it? Well, it's the flagship part of the Coal Authority's research and development programme. So what it is a dedicated monitoring network. And what we want to do is improve the understanding of the thermal and hydraulic interactions between operational schemes. So this really complements the work at UK Geos. But what we've got is monitoring boreholes in between existing mine water energy heat schemes. And for an exciting kind of part of the Coal Authorities, the whole aim of it is that we provide open access data. And this is quite new for the Coal Authority, so we're really excited about starting on that journey. So a bit of location there. So what I've shown here is I've shown Edinburgh, where the in-person audience are today. And then just down south of that, we've got Newcastle and Gateshead. And so a little bit zoomed in. So just south of Newcastle, you've got Gateshead here. And in this small area, there are currently 3 existing mine water energy systems. So these are shown in the orange dots on my map. So in the top, you've got the Gateshead Energy Company. And you've then got 2 other ones, Nest Road and Abbotsford Road. And they're managed by Town Rock Energy for Lanchester Mines. So in the middle here, we've got an existing Coal Authority monitoring point, which has been in for quite a while. And we've got these 2 new sections here. So the green one is Bede site, and that's one we've already constructed and what I'll be talking about today. The one in blue is a stadium site, which we're hoping we're going to be starting drilling in the next few weeks. There's a couple of land permission things we need to get sorted, but yeah, hold your horses on that one. So I'm focusing just on the Bede site today. So a little bit of conceptualization then. I need to really thank Lee Wyatt at the back for this, because this is mostly his work. And this is kind of going west to east across that idea. So at the top, we've got some superficial deposits underlain by sandstone aquifer. And then underneath that, we've got this high main aquifer, which is a combination of a mine seam and also an aquifer. And deeper than this, we've got this deeper mining system. So really, we're trying to understand the interactions in here. Gateshead Energy Company, they abstract from the deeper mine system shown in purple, and they re-inject back into the shallower system. At Nest Road, it's the opposite. You can see on the plan there. And at Abbotsford Road, there's a combination of different things. So what we've done is we've drilled some monitoring wells here in between the systems to try and understand what's happening with the mine water flow and the thermal flow. And what you can see here is, so the Bede, I can't just use my pointer because of the online, but the Bede borehole, you can see goes into a slightly shallower seam than the one that the GEC, the Gateshead Energy Company, goes into, and I'll explain that in a second. So what we want to do, at each of our 2 sites, we're hoping to have a shallow monitoring borehole and a deeper monitoring borehole. And the idea is we're going to monitor both systems, so the shallow system and the deeper mining system. The problem we've got is that because of the specialist techniques we're using and the specialist instrumentation, we can't drill with our casing. And if we hit a void, we can't kind of case as we go. We've got to just keep on drilling. So if we hit a mining void and we lose all the flush, we can't get all the rocks back to the surface. So we're drilling a bit blind. So what we did in the first one, we reached our target depth, but we had no indication that we were at that deeper mined aquifer. We didn't have any cuttings coming back to surface. We also did some connectivity, and it didn't show that we were in that deeper aquifer. So we abandoned that borehole and eventually backfilled it. In the second one we tried, we got to our target depth, but we think we might have hit a pillar in the mine workings because we didn't get, again, the connectivity that we thought we would get. So that one actually was backfilled, and they made that into the shallower monitoring borehole. In the third one, we got just above the depth we were hoping to get to, but we had this flush loss, which meant all the water from the borehole was going into the mine workings, so we couldn't actually work out where we were based on the geology. So we actually completed in this workings, and we think it's the seam above the one we were targeting, still in that deep mine system, but just a slightly bit higher. So this is what we've got in the sites. We've got two different boreholes. We've got a shallow one and a deep one. The deep one we've called the brass till because that's the seam we think it's hit. And in there we've got a level, temperature, and electrical conductivity monitor and that sensor, and that sits in the water column. Outside the casing, we've got thermistors, we've got vibrating wire piezometers, and the fibre optic cable. And in the shallower monitoring system, we've just got that sensor that's in the borehole. And really, So here's some kind of pictures of our installation. So this is quite, it can show you how much stuff is going into the borehole at this point. So the picture on the right, the middle bit of that shows the casing. So the big blue bit in the middle is the casing going down. The smaller blue tubes are the grout tubes. So we had to put grouting tubes in so we can keep all our sensors in place. The white line is the inflation for the packer. And if you look kind of towards the top, you might not be able to see it, but a little red line, that's the fibre optic cable going in. And that had to be put in an armoured cable around the side of the casing. And it had to be in place quite sensitively. The white bits towards the bottom, that's the centralisers to keep the casing straight as it went down. And you can see on the left the kind of technique they were using to install the sensors using these wheels. And then a little bit here about the instrumentation. So on the left, you've got what the deeper borehole into the brass till looks like. That's all our sensors at the top. And on the right, it's the shallower one. And in the middle is the actual vibrating wire piezometer attached to the casing. But really what you guys are interested in is the data, isn't it? So what data have we got? Well, on this first screen, I'm showing the data we've collected, the mine water level data we've got. So I think the first thing to look at here is that if you look at the orange line, that's from the shallower system, that's from the high main. There's a lot more data collected from that borehole. So from our deeper borehole, we've had a few logger issues and not been able to get the data from that. So it's a shorter time frame, which is unfortunate. But what's interesting is that the water levels are quite similar, which is what you can see. And then the big thing you can see actually in the middle of that, which you could see in the middle of that, is this big jump in water level. And this is actually testing was happening at Lanchester Wines. So what you can see is on the orange line, they were abstracting from that shallower aquifer. So you can see a reduction in water level. And then as they were injecting, there's an increase into the deeper aquifer. So this is really great. This shows that our monitoring borehole is connected to the system and can see impacts from that mine water heat scheme. This shows the electrical conductivity, and what's kind of to notice here is that the blue line, which is the deeper aquifer, is a lot more saline than the shallower mine system, which is what we'd expect. I need to kind of do a bit of understanding about what that jump is on the orange line, because it actually corresponds to potentially some water level ingress. You see that kind of kick up in the temperature on that bottom graph. So I need to kind of do investigation into that. But again, on the bottom graph, you can see that the temperature in the deeper system is higher than the shallower system. So already we're getting some data back to kind of look at the kind of interest in the mine workings, thermal and hydraulic conductivity. Okay, so what my last slide shows was the connectivity to the Lanchester wine schemes, but what about Gateshead Energy System? Well, if we look here, the green light, so again, blue and orange are our living lab boreholes. And what you can see in green, which is the Gateshead Energy Centre deep borehole, where they're abstracting from, if you can see there where they abstract, you get a reduction in water level. You can see a small reduction in the blue line as well. And that shows that we're seeing a pressure response in our monitoring network. It's not as pronounced as potentially we would have hoped if we'd hit the Hutton seam, but we are seeing a response in there. And a couple of other things that are of interest, if you look at the green line and the blue line, they're both into the deeper system. It's showing some sort of tidal influence, and that's because the River Tyne at this area is tidal. And also what this also shows is the yellow and the green line are higher than our orange and blue line. And that means that there's a mine water gradient that we can start understanding in the area. We haven't done a lot of the analysis on this yet. This is kind of presenting the data to begin with. This is electrical conductivity, and you can't see any changes in any of our monitoring during that. And the same with temperature, everything's pretty flat. So, this is some more data that we've collected. So what I did was did some temperature profiles and conductivity profiles in our deep well. So what you can see in the green line on the left, that's the conductivity. It jumps up, which is what we get in quite a lot of our shafts, which is to do with the conductivity in different mine workings. And on the right-hand side, the temperature probes. So the temperature profile that we took actually corresponds really well to the blue squares, which is the thermistor data. So it's showing that we're corroborating our data in there. So yeah, in conclusion, we've successfully drilled 2 boreholes at our first site in the Bede site. The deeper one wasn't quite as deep as we wanted, but it's showing connections to the system. So hopefully when we do our next drilling, we'll really hit our target depth. So this has established a connection to both energy schemes in the area. And hopefully the drilling is imminent at the second site. And then finally, I had been hoping, and my data team are really working on, I just checked my emails, to really announce that we were publishing the data today, but I haven't had that final approval. But really, it should be imminent. So we're just doing the really final bits. So this is kind of a soft launch, as you will. We're not doing a full comms around it. What we're doing is just doing an initial release of the data, the stuff that I've just shown you, really. So that should, if you come and speak to me, I'll hopefully be able to give you, keep an eye out on social media, and I'll try and publish it as soon as possible. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was a stakeholder data survey. So the Coal Authority Research and Development Team, we wanted some funding from the government to look into the feasibility of making some of our data more easily accessible, with the idea of driving forward mine water heat schemes. Because we understand that we've got a lot of data which could be repackaged in a way that'd be useful to you guys. So, I mean, we've obviously got ideas internally about what we want to do with our data and how to publish it. But what we thought was it'd be really great if we had your thoughts as well. So as part of this, we've put a stakeholder survey out. And I'd be really grateful if you could have a look at it and see if you could answer some of the questions. Because the idea is it'll shape our feasibility study. And then hopefully in the future, if we're applying for more funding to actually make the data available, then we've got some ideas from stakeholders about what we want. So yeah, have a go. We've also got some of the QR codes around. We've got a couple of people with some iPads and things. So yeah, please get involved in the survey. Thank you.